Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me this Tuesday, wherever you are in the world. So the time may not be the same, but here in beautiful downtown sunny Burbank, it's 2 p.m. Pacific time. So thank you for joining us. My guest is on Eastern time today. So that part of the audience may be 3 hours ahead. And either way, if you're joining us live, I thank you. If you are not joining us live, I thank you. It's a really good conversation that we're going to have today that I think applies to everybody at some point in their life. It goes through some stressful hardship times, some unknowing times, and we're going to talk about how to kind of lift ourselves out of that. But before we get into my guest today and our subject and everything we're doing, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So I am, as you heard at the beginning, my name is Debbie Carlin Boyle. I'm a health and nutrition coach, a personal trainer, and a fitness instructor. And I help people find balance in their life with all the things that feed us. I know if you're watching the screen, you see me cooking, but there are things besides food that feed us in life, believe it or not. And we need, one of those things we're going to talk about today, we need those things to all come into alignment in order for us to have a healthy life of longevity with quality. Because as we age, and I have my book to come out is known, the working title is Age Young. As we age, what more could we ask for than longevity with quality? So I invite you to join me at any of my programs, whether it be one-on-one or my groups or workshops. I do everything remotely as well as working together in person. You should go to my website to find me. I am Balanced Life by Debbie, DEBI.com. And there you'll see all my services, a little background on me, and a way to get in touch. You'll also see a pop-up when you go there, and there is a fall detox. And what it is 3 recipes for 3 days, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner each day, that are light and easy to prepare, and there's the market list, I believe, that goes with it. And once you go out and get this going in those 3 days, at the end of those 3 days, you're going to feel remarkably lighter on your feet. What a way to jump into fall than feeling from a good place kind of before we reset, before the holidays come. And this is just free. And if you want to talk to me, then just reach out. There's a place that says contact me, and you can reach out and we can have a conversation. I do free 45-minute intakes, so we can talk about you and what you're going through and what is out of balance in your life, and we can try to find the tools. I give you all of those suggestions and tools to put things back together into alignment. So I also want to let you know that my show is always a call-in show, because it's conversations that we have that connect to a healthier you. And these conversations I want you to get involved in too. So if you're watching live, and you can take down this number, the number here is area code 323-524-2599. That's 323-524-2599. Call in anytime when you feel like we're having part of the conversation that you have a question about, or a comment, or something that resonates with you. We'd love to hear from you live. If you're not watching live or listening live, then you can make a comment or ask a question on my YouTube channel, or my Facebook page, or my Instagram underneath the heading of the show, and myself or my guests will get back to you post-show. We keep the conversation going on and on. Now, before we get going, also, just today, because it is World Mental Health Day, I want to give you a few suggestions here on how to nourish your mental health. So just take mental notes, or if you want to write these down, they're just little bullet points of things you can do to have a really stronger, it's a very stressful time in the world right now. It's really rough what's going on in Israel, and we're seeing some images and we're knowing that we feel a little bit of helpless, but got to stay healthy ourselves to keep ourselves good for you and good for those that you love and everybody around you. So the first things you should do is just think about eating the rainbow, all those colorful foods, and get those phytonutrients that you can get. And when I say that, not processed, healthy, real food. Try to get up and get outside every morning. Get that a little bit of vitamin D. Get that sunshine on your face. Declutter your space. Try to keep everything organized. It's going to keep your body and your mind organized as well. Try a new activity. Maybe you haven't tried pickleball, or maybe you haven't tried taking hikes lately just to get out in nature. Ground yourself. That's also another mental health hack. Connect with a professional if you need at this time. If you need help, don't be afraid. We're going to talk about this today. Don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be ashamed. Don't have fear. Reach out. They're there to help you. Go ahead and call a friend to go grab a cup of coffee or just take a walk, but reach out to a friend and just sit and talk. Sometimes that will lower your cortisol levels and just keep your stress level down. And last but not least, during this time and any time, find a way to have random acts of kindness. Kindness is the number one thing in every relationship. Those that you do know and those that you're just meeting and don't know, just be kind. All right, we're going to get on with the show. So, appropriately, on this World Mental Health Day, we're going to have a discussion on finding your passion. And one of the components of longevity is finding joy in what you do for a living. As a health coach, I help my clients unlock their potential, embrace their passion, and turn it into a profession if they so desire. My guest today, Mary Kay Savarese, I'm going to say this right. Savarese is going to share with us how she turned her passion into a profession. Mary Kay is a traditionally published, best-selling, award-winning fiction author and speaker. She is known for her quirky titles, her debut novel, Tiger's Love Bubble Baths and Obsession Perfume, who knew? A mystery romance with a supernatural twist, which garnered 8 awards. Her recent novel is a fantasy adventure intertwined with romance and a soon-to-be audiobook. The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper is the first in the Star Writers trilogy. The second novel, The Star Writers Club, will be published soon. She's a finalist, or was a finalist, in SIBA, First Place, and Grand Prize category. The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper won the New York City Big Book Award for Fantasy, the International Royal Dragonfly for Fantasy, and most recently swept the fantasy category at the International Cadmus Awards. U.S. Review of Books compared it to A Wrinkle in Time and Doctor Who. Very cool. So let's hear how Mary turned her passion project into a profession and how you can do that too. So will you please welcome my guest, Mary Savarese, to the show. Pronounce your last name, Mary.
Savarese.
I said that. Didn't I say that?
Close,
no,
yeah.
nothing. I wasn't close at all. But that's my thing. I'm notorious for not being close at all to getting it right. Hi, thank you for joining us today. And I'm really excited to have you on this World Mental Health Day, because I know you fought with some issues yourself, which made you this award-winning author that you are today. So to get started, I want to hear the road you traveled, starting with from where you were born, what your childhood was like, your schooling, and everything that sort of led up to where you are today. So we want your story.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you and your audience today, Debbie, and thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Mental health, so important, not only today, but as you said, every day. And I love what you said, growing young, because that's what we each do strive for. You asked me my journey. Well, you can hear my accent. It is my Brooklyn accent. I live in Florida now, but many years ago, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, where I spent I spent my teenage years there and my young adult years there. I received a degree, not in writing or journalism or anything like that. My degree was earned St. John's University and within the New York City university system, a finance degree, accounting degree, business degree. And that's what I pursued. And I married in my late 20s.
Before you married, did you have a career in finance? Or
yes,
you did?
Exactly. Okay. I worked within the insurance industry, within the finance accounting department, Debbie.
Okay. So that's what you were doing before you married. Yes. And then you married, and then what happened?
Well, it's not that I rushed into having children right away. I was very much a career woman. And we moved. We decided, my husband and I, he was offered a position in New England. It was Massachusetts. And we said, why not? And we fell in love with New England. And we spent 7 years outside of Boston in the suburbs. And I continued working and he worked. And I have to throw this in, Debbie, I lived in a 220-year-old farmhouse in Westford, Massachusetts, where I did experience something. It could have been a guardian angel or a ghost.
Really?
And, yes.
Do tell. What were the happenings that you think you experienced that?
Well, I was, now I'm married 5 years, my first pregnancy, and women go through this all the time. And my first pregnancy resulted in a miscarriage.
Well, we've just went through that in my family. So you're right about women do go through that all the time.
It was devastating. I remember falling apart. And it isn't until you, and this is so important, until you are actually holding your child and that baby is healthy and everything else, do you realize that miscarriage was okay. It's nothing you did. It was your body's normal response to something that did not develop properly. But because it was my first pregnancy, I was totally devastated. So within 6 months after that, I was pregnant again. And I was so afraid of doing anything that I thought might cause another miscarriage, because you really don't understand. You're so emotionally attached to this pregnancy, to having a healthy baby. And I lived, as I said, Westford, Massachusetts. This is now January, early February. This was many, many years ago. And it was an attached home. And I normally go out one certain way. This time I went out a different way. And to this day, I can actually see what I was wearing, how I felt. I was walking on a sheet of ice, but it was covered with snow. And as I started to fall, nobody can see me, because the way this home was structured, there were trees to the right of me, shrubbery. Even though there was nothing on the shrubbery, nobody could see me. And it was though I was floating in time. And at that point in my life, I never told anybody, because people would have thought I was crazy. but I had enough time to straighten out my hands and to just float down. And I was prostrate on the, just coming down very slowly. And I'll never forget that. And I always wondered, was it my angel or was it just a benevolent spirit that lived in this 220-year-old farmhouse? But I never told anybody until recently. Now I love to talk about it.
Really? Well, it's something. It's something that's stayed with you, and you know, it's kind of festered, and now you have to get it out for a reason. So it probably was something of a supernatural incident. You know, very cool that you lived in that house.
And as I would say, at that point in your life, I was, my degree, my career was in accounting, financing. But it does help me in my writing today. I have no fear of going into those different realms. And I think it is because of that point in my life, being introduced to something that was very helpful and benevolent to me at that point in time.
Something that you needed at that point in time, so you could move forward, so you could be more successful in where you're at today. So you did. So how many children do you have now?
I have 3 children, and they are all adulting, very successful, early 30s. 2 are early 30s, 1 is late 20s. And several years ago, I think when I had approached you, talk about another mental health crisis I was going through, was I had to come to terms with my family unit being dead.
Yeah, that's a hard one. That empty nester thing. So many people go through that. And it hits you, it sideswipes you because you don't think about it ahead of time. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, that last one leaves, and it's tough. So sorry, you can go on. And
No. What I wanted to say was, on the surface, I was jubilant. This was the most incredible, wonderful time in my life. But something was happening on the subconscious level. And I had to come to terms with my family unit as I knew it, that it was dead. And what I mean by that is the babies that I raised, the toddlers I chased, the teenagers I stayed up all night waiting to come home, possibly, right? You don't want to say that now, but that's what we do as parents.
Well, we worry.
Right? I had to come to terms with that being dead in my life. And I had no idea that it took me a good year and a half to come to terms with that idea and how to get there, how I got there. And it was not an easy time in my life. Fortunately for me, my writing at that point was a hobby, and it really helped me through that difficult time in life. And both men and women go through this.
Yeah, big time. And it hits us all differently. A lot of marriages change. I mean, we go through acts in our life. I've talked about this on the show before. We go through acts, and, the first act is just growing up and learning and getting formal educated and finding our sort of tribe, our friends, and that it's a discovery time. And it's also a time, if you so choose, to find a mate and start a family, for some, not for others. But, it is that time. That's sort of the first act. And, the second act is when you're raising those kids. You're everything for everybody else but yourself. And there's so much talk now around, especially moms who tend to, and that's what I was going to ask you, you tend to give up careers or slow down. Mm-hmm. I slowed mine way down, which, changed my personal financial little nest egg. But it also gave me a lot of joy to be around my children and go to all their activities and see all their shows. Both my daughters are classically trained ballerinas, so they had years and years of studying, which has never stopped to this day, really. And I, wrapped myself around the PTA and wrapped myself around I began teaching at the Performing Arts Studio that they danced at because I have a degree in theater, and it just everything I could do to be around them and yet keep my work going. So I had that balance, but you're so busy because there isn't a lot of balance. There's just a lot of fatigue that's your second act as you get your kids off and running. And then suddenly they're off and you're left with your spouse if you're still together. Or on your own if you're not. And all these decisions you've got to make is your third act. It's your time together, or you feel this horrible loss, because it is a loss. And for me, I had on top of it, my 34-year relationship with my now ex-husband ended right after my youngest daughter graduated college. So I got this double whammy, and I was thrown out into the world by myself. And it's a scary time. It's a stressful time. And I went through some really tough times. And if I didn't have the health and wellness practices that I do today, I would be on some severe medication, or I'd be medicating myself to numb myself in some, detrimental way. And so, it is, and that third act can play out really great, where you're with your spouse and you're able to travel. It's a chance for you to reinvent yourself, to take your hobby and finally not do a job that was just to fill the bank, but now something for yourself. And that's what I think you did. Tell us your story on how that came about.
Well, Liz, it didn't come about easily. Because what happened at that point, I did not have that mental health background that I needed. For me, it was, we wear many hats, and you don't go to a therapist. I grew up in a home. You take care of everything yourself. We raise the kids. You always keep that smile on your face. And it was fine going through life up until that point in time. And it was like that last daughter, well, I had 3 kids, but this was the last child. She just became a senior in college. And up until that point, as I said, I was still smiling, and this is the greatest thing. I'm the empty nester. Life's going to change. It's going to be wonderful. Well, something happened, and it was bad. And what happened to me, I was at an event, I was volunteering, and I was standing, and all of a sudden my legs became numb and my arms became numb. And I thought I was having a stroke. I was having some severe medical issue. And that's where my journey began. My subconscious was knocking on the conscious, and I was not answering. And I believe that's why I love to talk about this. We're shamed, and we don't know where to go with this. I didn't know where to go. I kept it to myself, and I suffered and I suffered. This went on for a couple of months till I really broke down crying, and I spoke to a friend who was in the mental health field, and she said, "It's time. You're going to see somebody. Let's start." Good for you. And that's where the journey began. And I am so, so grateful. She's no longer with us. But she was there for me. And it was a journey. And the journey began with seeing what therapist, do you see psychiatrists? Do you see this? Well, the first thing I should say is they did all the medical tests on me. That's where you start. Is it neurological? And when everything came back normal, the doctor just does sit you down. And I want to be very honest with the audience today. The doctor sits you down and they say, nope, you're dealing with severe anxiety. and, maybe you have depression there. And the first thing they say is, we're going to put you on the meds, the anxiety meds. What did I know? They prescribed some Xanax. I would medicate by drinking at that point in my life, because drinking would help numb things. And we know that's one of the worst things that you could do. But I didn't know what was the cause. There's a root cause of your problem that you need to figure it out. And it took me 1.5 years to figure it out.
But you did.
I did. I had inklings of what it was. And I thought, that's it. We're a month into this. I got it all figured out. It'll be gone. No.
Yeah.
Kept
it's
knocking.
It's a process. It's a process. And it's so funny, because this is a true example of how your body responds to stress and anxiety. So, whatever you think mentally, your body is going to respond to that. And the numbness has a lot. I mean, it also has to do with the way you're caring for yourself, too. If you're not sleeping and you're not eating nutritious foods that are giving the vitamin and minerals that your body needs, that your organs need to keep you afloat in a healthy, positive way, then you're going to experience trauma somewhere in your body. And that's what somatic healing is all about as well. So, but you got to the root of it, what was causing it.
It was 1.5 years. The first step was, I did meet with a therapist, and we talked, and this was just like a 1-day therapy session, which you think back now, you don't need just 1 day, you have to ask. She asked me the pertinent question. Okay, close your eyes. What is the happiest thing you could think of in your life that makes you so happy? And there it was. Debbie, I saw it in my head. I was standing in the kitchen with my husband and the 3 kids the way they were. At this point, maybe one was maybe 10, 11, the other one was teenager, and we were all standing around the island, and we were preparing food. And all of a sudden, I started to cry. I was with her. I had a 2-hour session with her. At that point, maybe we're into our session for a half hour. I cried the next hour. I couldn't stop.
Because that's your happiest moment, is to be around your family.
That was my happiest
Hallelujah.
moment.
I can completely relate. Relate, yes.
And what did I say? Sit, I'm cured, I'm done.
Yeah.
Done. We know what the root of the problem is.
Yeah. No, it's bigger. But I want to get to what it actually was and how you got yourself dug out. We're going to take a quick break from one of my sponsors. We're going to come back right after, and we're going to get to the rest of it. And then I want to get to your wonderful novels that you've written, because that's the journey that we're going to talk about. You got to. We'll be right back after this message from a sponsor. Cicera Olio de Oliva is an extra virgin olive oil company with a mission to provide high-quality, current-season Italian oils to families. They have partnered with 2 centuries-old family farms in the Tuscany region of Italy to grow, harvest, and bottle their amazing oils. Founded by a nutritionist who has a love of the land, sustainability, nutritious foods, and of course, Italy, they strive for a peak freshness and high nutritional content in every single bottle. All of their oils are current season, extra virgin olive oil, bringing you a true branch to bottle experience, and I know firsthand. So, for an offer, go to www.cesarioliva.com and enter Balanced Life 10 for 10% off. I know you're going to love this healthy and delicious addition to just about any meal. All right, we're back. Thank you for joining us. We're talking on this World Mental Health Day. We are talking with Mary. Say your name, Mary, for me so I don't say it wrong.
Mary Kay Savarese.
Savarese. Mary Kay Savarese today, who is an award-winning author. We're going to get to it, but we're talking about when she, had a little breakdown and had some mental health challenges of herself and how she came out of it. So let's start where we left off. What was the next thing that happened for you?
Well, the next thing is I was fortunate. I was writing, raising the family, working, volunteering, everything that you said. As they started to leave, it gave me some free time. And always in the back of my head, always put it on the back burner, I had ideas for novels. I love to write with quirky titles, and I love fantasy adventures. And so I found when I was writing and I was concentrating on my laptop that this numbness, now you would think at this point, Debbie, I am on the anxiety meds. I have Xanax if I need it. I would drink. I'm a healthy person. I always was. So I would exercise. But when I was away from my writing, which totally immerses you, which is one of the things you realize that this was joyous for me, I would experience the numbness. It just didn't go away. That anti-anxiety medication is not that pill that, I thought, oh, this is it. It's going to stop it. Well, it doesn't. You have to take it by the horns, figure it out, and you have to work within your life on how to help yourself with this. Now, I did learn, because I crossed that bridge, anxiety isn't a bad thing. I feared having anxiety through all of this because I'm thinking I'm going to die from it. You don't die from it. It does move you if you procrastinate. Like, I've learned that if something's bothering me and I figure it out, I take care of it. My anxiety dissipates, it goes away. So there are tricks that I learned, but it took me a good year and a half and therapy once a week.
Yeah, and just it can take a lot longer than that,
Yes.
I know people that it has, and I'm sure you have reoccurrences. Like you said, now you have tools.
Yes.
When things start to fester and you feel it, all that fuel coming, and what you can do to avoid having your body have that response to it. So you started dabbling in writing, and was it all fiction that you were dabbling in, or what was it?
Fiction. Yep. Reality is too real for me. I love to write in fiction. I love to get away from that, and the joy that it gives me and the passion that I find is being a creative. It takes me on the journey, and that's what I absolutely love. And you hear that writers write different ways. You could be a pantser, or you could be somebody that, you have to have chapter in your head or written down chapter by chapter. I begin with a quirky title, something that affected me in real life. I have this quirky title, and then I have an idea of where I want to take it, how I want to end it, and then I create my characters, and then I start, and it takes me on this incredible, wonderful journey. And Debbie, I'm an overnight success, a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah, aren't we all? Yeah.
My goal was to become traditionally published, because 10 years ago, writers didn't have what is afforded them today. Today, self-publishing isn't taboo anymore. You have co-publishing. There's so many small publishing houses. The larger publishing houses back then were open. They're always looking for the latest, greatest thing. After Harry Potter and anything with vampires, they're looking for that next trend. So, but now those big houses are close to you unless you have a literary agent. But what's happened in the last decade, a lot of small publishing houses have opened up, and they will look at your work. So my goal was to become traditionally published, but it took me 10 years to get there. But my writing, I loved it so much that it always helped me.
And so, and that's sort of the theme of what we're talking about today, is finding a hobby or a passion that's going to help you, get you out of the fog, get you out of the anxiety, getting you out of the depression, and doing something that you love, and whatever it be. I mean, before you know it, it can turn into a full-time career, which is now you are an award-winning novelist.
As it did. But, at the time, and nobody on your family, the kids, they cannot give you that purpose. You have to find that joy and purpose. And that's where, as women, we're like, okay, we do everything for everybody else except for ourselves.
That's what I was saying earlier, yes. Yeah. And in my case, moving on after my divorce, I changed my career in my late 50s. So, and that's when I went back to school. I had the side hustle, right, which was a hobby, which was fitness. So I've been teaching since 1996, and I've been a personal trainer since 1997. Total side hustle because it was my passion. I had this passion. It was one of the only ways that I could get through that sort of second act that was so busy as a working mom, was to exercise and was to get those, endorphin highs and just stay fit. So if I felt like if I looked good, I could feel good. If I felt good, I could look good. And I learned early on that was important to longevity and also to mental and physical health. But when my marriage ended, we were in business together. So did that gig that I had. I was a television commercial producer for 30 years. And I went on and worked some small jobs with independents and stuff. But I went back to school, and I just wanted to take my passion and make it full time. It was important to me to get the message out and fill my soul up as well with the knowledge and the expertise, not only for myself and my family, but for beyond. And that's now why I'm writing the book, and that's why I do the podcast. I've been doing the podcast now for 7 years and 8 years, going on 8. And it's important to me to bring in people like you who have the stories to help the audience know that they're not alone. I think it's so important. I want to get to your novels because you said it starts with the name. And obviously, this name about tigers loving bubble baths. I know the story. I know the backstory because I did the research on you. But it's a really fun story. So you need to tell the audience how you came up with this name and then how you built a whole novel around it. So,
well, audiences don't believe it, and it is absolutely true. Tigers love bubble baths and obsession perfume. And this was the first manuscript that was accepted by a small publishing house.
And you had many more manuscripts before this one?
I was already, by the time my first book was published, I had 6 manuscripts.
Okay.
I was working on my 6th manuscript. It was this 4th one, but rejection after rejection after rejection. You have to learn how to,
handle that.
Build that tough skin.
It does.
But it was a joy. So for me to create things. Okay. So the backstory on this is in St. Augustine, Florida, there is a reserve for big cats, and it's really like a nursing home for not little cats. I'm talking lions and tigers and jaguars and cougars. They will take them into this wildlife reserve. Now, where do they come from? They come from maybe a cable show or a movie, or actually at that point, since I wrote the book, but it didn't have anything to do with me. It had something to do with Tiger King. What happened was people had these tigers as pets, and when they went to, bite at your neck, those people had to get rid of this tiger, and the tigers would go to this wildlife reserve. So this is the end of the tour. and I come up and there's this big vat overflowing with bubbles. And it's about, I don't know, maybe 12 feet wide, 5 feet high. And I'm behind a thin cage. And standing on a ladder is a wildlife handler. And out walks this beautiful Siberian tiger, walks across the plank, looks as though he's taking off a rope, and he slips into this vat of bubbles and opens his mouth, and the wildlife handler sprays Obsession perfume on his tongue.
It's hysterical.
And Debbie, it was hysterical. And I stood there with my mouth open, and I could not believe it. And this tiger and they love bubbles. Tigers are the only big cats. They do love water. And the reason they love the Obsession perfume, it has pheromones in it and it calms them down. It's their Xanax. So.
Oh, wow. Who knew? You would think it would poison them.
Right. That was my title. Tigers. I said to myself, tigers love bubble baths and Obsession perfume. Who knew?
Yeah.
This became this was my fourth manuscript. I said, I'm going to develop a story. And what I did was I wrote a murder mystery intertwined. This is where the supernatural comes in for me. I wrote it around that, and it was one death after another. The reader knows what's going on, but not my protagonist. And that was the first novel, and that novel garnered 8 awards.
Wow.
And bestseller on ebooks. But at that point, okay, you would think that when I approached my publisher at the time with an idea for a trilogy, it had all these accolades, it was doing great, they would be interested, but that publisher was not interested in a trilogy. So I was able to find an all-women's new publishing house, a small publishing house, and they're fabulous. They loved my idea, and that's where I am today with this next quirky, The Girl in the Toile wallpaper. Now, toile, you see it behind me. Toile is so much a part of our everyday life. It's been around for centuries. It originated in toile de joie in France. And it's a very vibrant wall covering or cloth, 2 very vibrant tones on a background, and it tells a story. It's not a mural. A mural is one scene. Toile are many different scenes, and it could be anything, contemporary. It could have people in it. It could be anything you want it to be. It is that beautiful integrity of those colors. And that's what I loved about toile so much. I had so much of it. At that point, Debbie, I was living in New England. I had so much toile in my house, I couldn't even sell it. But I saw stories in all my toile. So I wrote The Girl in the Toile wallpaper, where it's contemporary and it takes you back in time, and it takes you to Siena and Florence at a point in time.
And it's a trilogy. So now you have your second.
It's the first of the trilogy. The second of the trilogy, and this is going to sound terrible, but it's not meant to be. I didn't want to take you back. Those characters come back. I introduce new ones. But I just didn't want to bring you as an author back to those characters. I wanted you to want them. So what I did, now a trilogy is different than a series. A trilogy, you can take a theme. I took a theme. This trilogy is called the Star Riders trilogy. And in The Girl in the Toile wallpaper, they very much wished to the Star Riders, and all their dreams and everything went to the Star Riders. That was the way it was portrayed in The Girl in the Toile wallpaper. So in book 2 of the trilogy, I take you into the world of the Star Riders, and it's an ethereal world tucked in between the 2 earthly worlds. So I was ready to pull my hair out, and I said to myself, what the hell are you doing? Because I had to create worlds.
Yeah, that's tough.
I don't know what's beyond heaven. I don't want to see what's below where we call hell, but I created worlds around that, and I fed the characters into those worlds.
Wow.
And we got through it.
Sounds like you did. That's a lot of imagination and a lot of work. So I'm curious. So, I mean, this is you following your passion and your passion becoming, a success, if you will. Well, I'm curious what your writing process is. Like, well, how do you start your day? You're in the middle of a book. Your ideas are probably, like for me, my chapters are down, my brainstorming is down, and then I go and delineate and do the research for each chapter. What would your process? What is a day? Because obviously it's a very healthy process. And I'm just curious so people can understand.
Yes. Now, I am a fiction writer and my genre is fantasy adventure. So being a fiction writer is different than nonfiction. And what I love for me, as I told you, I begin with the quirky title. I have a general idea. Characters are so important. I create the characters and then I start. And I start line by line. And that one line takes me to the end of the paragraph. And that paragraph becomes the next paragraph and it becomes a page. So there's some days I could write 5, maybe more than 5 pages, but I do a lot of editing while I'm writing. Some days it's just a page. But I love, I begin. And I have a general idea of where I want it to go. As I said, I'm a pantster. And what that means is I live my life and I write by the seat of my pants. Mm-hmm. And that brings me, Debbie, so much joy because I may think that I want this character to go one way and a sentence that I write and I go, oh my God, I could do this with this character, and that's fabulous. And that gives me such joy. It's my stories take me on the adventure.
I love it how one thing takes you to the next. That's the process. That's how you know you're where you're meant to be. Right. So
my purpose, that's my purpose in life. I want to create worlds for my readers, for your audience, where, lives are tough, especially what we're going through today. The anxiety level, the stress level for everybody is so high. And no matter where, I'd love to take you out of that and just put you into a fantasy world to take you away from the reality.
Which is what entertainment is all about, too.
Exactly.
We have to, that's why during the pandemic, Netflix and all the streaming services just skyrocketed. We had to get out of the doom and gloom that we were going through.
Yes.
So we just have a few minutes left. Just some quick suggestions for the listener to, if they have something that they're sitting in a desk job or something that many people like their jobs at a desk, but some don't, and they have a passion or a hobby. What are some suggestions real quick that they could do to kind of get out of the rut?
Stick with it. If that is truly a passion of your life, I'm not telling you quit your day job, but feed this passion and never, ever give up on yourself, because everybody's around to tell you you're nuts, it's this, it's that. But if it gives you purpose and passion, stick with it, because that's the enjoyment that you're going to get out of it. And as it's all stepping stones. That one stepping stone, like for me, my manuscript, I finally got it published. And then I do podcasts. The books win awards. It's all stepping stones.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I agree with you. Don't give up, but find that passion. To find that passion, sometimes you have to go out and try different things. Go take a dance class. Go take an exercise class. Go do a writing course. And
it could be anything.
Yes.
It could be if you're an artist. It doesn't have to be that you're writing. It could be
music.
Volunteering.
Yes.
But you know what your passion is when you can't wait to get up in the morning and go do it. That's your passion.
I agree. And that is a never too late thing. Go for it. Go for it. No. Don't say, oh, it's too late, or I'm not enough. And, we live in that mantra.
Yes.
Just go do it. Just do it. Nike had something when they came up with that line, because it's true. Just do it. Let the fear guide you. and let it be your stepping stone to the next step.
Right. And we all have that fear. But once you do it and maybe you take those baby steps, you've gotten past that fear. And you realize, man, accomplished.
That you could do anything.
Yeah. That's right.
Empowered. Yeah.
And everything I went through, Debbie, that other thing I want to share with your audience with my anxiety, it empowered me because I learned the tools of how to deal with it, and I crossed that bridge. And I still deal with anxiety, but now I have the tools. to subside that anxiety.
I love that. We're on to our final words, but what I want you to do is just tell very quickly how people, we're at our last minute, how can people get a hold of you?
You can go to my author website, www.maryksavarese.com. I have a lot of cute things there, toll worlds, but my books are everywhere. I am traditionally published, but they're on Amazon. I'm in Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, which suffered so much during the COVID. I love to support them. If my book's not on the shelf, they just put my name in, the book comes up, they'll have it the next day. But I'm everywhere, and I just want to bring joy to the world by taking you on a fantasy adventure.
I love it. And final thoughts, just final words, a couple of words, it could be one for the audience.
Never, ever, ever give up on yourself, no matter what anybody tells you. If you have that passion in your heart, stick with it. It'll happen for you too. Not overnight. Took me 10 years, but it'll happen for you too.
I agree with you. There's a lot of final words with a lot of my audience is that. So I couldn't agree with you more. Mary, such a pleasure. You're such a vivacious, wonderful, effervescent person. Thank you for spreading your joy and giving us something to read and get out of our stressful time. I suggest you go to Mary's website and try to get a hold of these books, because you'll probably, especially if you're into the other worlds, like if you're,
fantasy.
Yes, into fantasy. This is like where to go. Again, Mary, wait 1 second, but thank you so much. And for you, my audience, I want to thank you too for joining us today. And remember, I want you to keep going out and finding those conversations that connect to a healthier you. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody. Thank you.